Have you ever wondered why the most devoted women in history didn't fall for the kindest men, but for the ones who kept them guessing? Imagine discovering that buried in the vaults of psychological research lies a blueprint of female desire so controversial, so politically incorrect, that it's been systematically suppressed for over a century. What if the reason most men fail with women isn't lack of effort, but a fundamental misunderstanding of how attraction actually works at the deepest psychological level? Picture this: a wealthy Viennese socialite in 1897, elegant and refined in public, yet behind closed doors, she's systematically tormenting her suitors. She draws them in with warmth and affection, and vanishes without explanation for weeks at a time. Her behavior seems irrational, cruel even, until you understand what shaped her. At age 6, she watched her mother methodically dismantle her father's reputation, extracting power piece by piece. The lesson burned into her unconscious mind. Power isn't seized through force. It's surrendered willingly, and certain people instinctively know how to make others hand it over. This wasn't just one woman's pathology. This was a pattern repeated across dozens of case studies, documented with scientific precision by researchers who dared to ask uncomfortable questions about human nature. The findings revealed something that makes modern relationship advice look like fairy tales written for children. Female desire doesn't operate on the principles we've been taught. It doesn't respond to niceness, consistency, or devotion the way conventional wisdom suggests. Instead, it thrives on something far more primal: the electric tension between security and danger, between the known and the unpredictable. Consider the evidence from modern research that confirms these century-old observations. Scientists studying attraction patterns discovered that women show 52% higher engagement with men who exhibit what researchers call controlled unpredictability. Even more striking, studies on perceived attractiveness revealed that women rate men as significantly more desirable when they believe other women want him, even when that man is objectively less physically attractive than alternatives. This isn't cultural conditioning. This is evolutionary wiring, biological programming that operates beneath conscious awareness. Think about the implications. While most men are playing a straightforward game, offering consistency, reliability, and transparent affection, they're completely missing the actual dynamics at play. It's like showing up to a chess match thinking you're playing checkers. You're not even operating in the same strategic framework as the game being played around you. The moves that seem logical, fair, and morally correct are often the exact moves that guarantee failure. Here's where it gets darker. What women consciously say they want and what actually triggers their attraction exist in completely different psychological territories. A woman can genuinely believe she desires stability, kindness, and unwavering devotion. She can articulate these preferences clearly and mean them sincerely. Yet when confronted with a man who provides exactly these qualities versus one who remains slightly out of reach, who disappears, periodically who seems unfazed by her beauty and status, her nervous system responds to the latter with intensity that bypasses all rational intention. The historical record is filled with examples that seem to defy logic until you understand this principle. An aristocratic woman in 1901 abandoned her titled husband, a man of wealth, status, and devotion, for an illiterate stable hand who possessed none of these advantages. Society was scandalized. How could she throw away everything for nothing? But she wasn't trading down. She was responding to something her husband had lost: the ability to remain unpredictable, to maintain an independent center of gravity that didn't orbit around her approval. Her husband had become too predictable. He worshipped her, deferred to every preference, needed her validation. The stable boy ignored her. He had other concerns, other priorities. He didn't rearrange his life around her presence. And that indifference sparked something in her that all her husband's devotion never could. This pattern appears again and again across different eras, different cultures, different social classes. Women who consciously claim to despise men who don't worship them, yet become obsessed with men who remain emotionally self-contained. The mechanism at work isn't cruelty. It's something the female unconscious does automatically. It tests. Without conscious intention, women create situations designed to probe for weakness. They pick fights over nothing. They manufacture drama. They withdraw affection suddenly, not because they enjoy conflict, but because their deepest instincts need to know if he'll break under pressure. The man who scrambles to fix things, who becomes anxious and desperate to restore harmony, fails the test. The man who remains unshaken, who maintains his center while she storms, triggers something primal that logic can't override. Look at the great seductions throughout history. They weren't executed through submission or endless accommodation. They involved challenge, strategic withdrawal, and forcing the other person to prove themselves worthy of attention. Modern research on relationship dynamics confirms that women report higher satisfaction and stronger attraction in relationships where men occasionally exhibit what scientists carefully term controlled indifference. The research can't quite say it plainly, but the data is clear. Devotion without depth, attention without mystery, creates comfort but kills desire. So what does this mean for the man trying to navigate modern relationships? It means the conventional playbook is worse than useless. It's actively counterproductive. But here's what makes this knowledge truly powerful. Once you understand the actual mechanisms at work, you can't unsee them. And there's a second layer beneath what we've discussed, something even more fundamental about how female psychology operates. Most men never realize they're being played, not because women are consciously manipulative, but because they're responding to unconscious programs that even they don't fully understand. The testing mechanism we discussed operates automatically, but there's something beneath it, a deeper circuit that governs not just attraction, but obsession. Modern neuroscience has given us the vocabulary to describe what earlier researchers could only observe behaviorally. The brain's reward system doesn't fire most strongly for consistent positive outcomes. It fires hardest for unpredictable rewards. This is why gambling addictions are so powerful, why slot machines hook people more effectively than guaranteed payouts. The same neurological principle governs romantic attachment. A man who provides steady, predictable affection creates a flat emotional landscape. A man who provides attention in unpredictable bursts creates peaks and valleys that the nervous system finds intoxicating. Consider documented cases where women abandon careers, families, and financial security to chase relationships that made no logical sense. When asked to explain their decisions, they struggle to articulate rational justifications. The explanation exists below the level of conscious reasoning, in the reward circuits that have been rewired through intermittent reinforcement. When he's present, the dopamine spike is intense. When he's absent, the craving intensifies. The relationship becomes less about the person and more about the neurological pattern they've created. But this goes deeper than simple unpredictability. Research on emotional contrast reveals something fascinating. Women don't just respond to positive experiences. They respond most powerfully to emotional range. Studies comparing consistent kindness against alternating warmth and distant detachment found that over 70% of women felt stronger attraction to the unpredictable pattern, even when explicitly informed about the behavioral inconsistency. The flat line of stable affection reads as safe but boring. The oscillation between connection and withdrawal creates a narrative tension that the mind finds compelling. This explains the paradox that frustrates so many well-meaning men. Why does the guy who treats her poorly keep her hooked while the guy who treats her well gets taken for granted? It's not that women enjoy mistreatment. It's that emotional stability provides comfort without electricity, while emotional variability creates the intensity that registers as aliveness. The answer isn't to become cruel. It's to understand that female desire thrives in the space between security and uncertainty. History's legendary seducers operated on this principle instinctively. They didn't win through constant availability or endless reassurance. They won through strategic presence and strategic absence, through creating experiences so memorable that they permanently altered the other person's emotional baseline. One historical account describes orchestrated experiences that mixed beauty with anxiety, comfort with controlled danger, creating memories that didn't just persist but haunted. The goal wasn't to be remembered fondly. It was to become impossible to forget. Modern research on memory formation shows that experiences coupling multiple intense emotions create stronger neural pathways than simple pleasure. The brain prioritizes survival-relevant information, and situations that blend excitement with uncertainty register as critically important. When you become associated with these heightened states, you're not just liked or appreciated. You become necessary to her sense of feeling fully alive. Here's how this operates practically. The worst position you can occupy in a woman's mind is comfortable and forgettable. Better to create occasional friction than constant ease. This doesn't mean manufactured drama or toxic games. It means becoming genuinely less available than you're inclined to be. If your instinct is to text back immediately, wait. If you always initiate plans, pull back and see if she pursues. Let her experience your absence as a void she wants to fill. But there is something even more powerful than strategic absence: the ability to transform how she sees herself. The men who create lasting obsession don't just provide experiences. They unlock versions of the woman she didn't know existed. They push her beyond her self-imposed limitations, challenge her comfortable narratives about who she is, make her feel simultaneously uncomfortable and exhilarated by her own potential. This isn't flattery or empty compliments. It's holding up a mirror that shows capabilities she's been ignoring. Research on relationship satisfaction reveals that people feel most attached to partners who expand their self-concept, who make them feel like more dynamic versions of themselves. But here's the critical distinction. This requires tension. Endless praise creates temporary pleasure. True transformation requires friction. A man who tells a talented but lazy woman she's wasting her gifts, who refuses to validate comfortable mediocrity, creates discomfort that paradoxically strengthens attachment. She may resist initially, but she can't forget the person who saw more in her than she saw in herself. The final element is understanding that lasting attachment isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming metabolically unforgettable. There's a critical window in relationship formation, typically 3 to 6 months of intense interaction, where emotional patterns either lock in or fade. During this period, the goal isn't comfort or stability. It's creating experiences so intense, so emotionally varied, that your presence becomes neurologically encoded as essential. Miss this window, and no amount of later effort recreates the magic. This is why the most devoted attachments often form through early turbulence rather than smooth sailing. The mind conflates difficulty with value. When someone invests significant emotional energy, especially through challenge or uncertainty, the brain rewrites the narrative to justify that investment. The relationship must be important, must be valuable, because look how much it's costing. This isn't conscious reasoning. It's the psychological immune system making sense of sunk costs. The men who understand these principles don't stumble into rare success. They architect it deliberately, not through manipulation, but through clarity about how human attachment actually forms beneath the pretty stories we tell ourselves. The question isn't whether these dynamics exist. The evidence from psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral observation is overwhelming. The question is whether you're willing to operate based on how things actually work rather than how you wish they worked. Because comfort is easy to provide, but obsession requires understanding the darker architecture of human desire.